So everyone, thank you so much for joining today in the consciousness, like discovering the secrets of consciousness. And today the third secret is revealed. You might already have seen it on YouTube because it is already there, available as like a summary of the aspects that we use in the meeting. And so today we listen to a talk which is the nature of error talk of Joel. Now here's the great thing with Joel today in the tape. Like the first half hour he's sharing a lot about the how everything came up to the point of the infinite way, like with metaphysics, with prayer healing, with Christian healing, with everything that you call spiritual healing. And so that is something to listen to. But we're actually taking a listen to the second half of it, because there he continues about spiritual healing and in relationship with the nature of error. Now, the nature of error, to step right into it, the nature of error is not a spiritual principle. And you know that. It's like if you see the nature of error being like mesmerism, error being the belief in opposites, error being it's like thinking that there's such thing as limitation, as sickness, pain, death, and the whole riddle that we know so well. It's like, so actually the nature of error is not a principle, not a spiritual principle. It has nothing to do with your divinity. But at the same time, you have to know what it is in order to recognize that it isn't what the truth is. So that's why the nature of error is very important. And so Joel never really enters into the field of psychology or the thinking mind, so to speak. He would just say like it's universal mesmerism. But then there's more to discover, or thinking in terms of opposites. So it's like that's human thinking. But to matter one fact is that you deal with it all day long. You're actually in observation, at least, of your thoughts. And maybe you're even organizing your thoughts, thinking that I'm going to do this tomorrow and going to do that. I did that yesterday. So believing that there is a past and a future. So in other words, today would be a good moment to actually step into that psychology a little bit and revert that, or use that in such a way that you see why it is used in spiritual awakening. It's like it's not healing itself, but you have to know what is real within the happenings in your own mind. So that's inevitable. You will have to see what you are thinking and what you are believing. Otherwise, you cannot release it. And you wouldn't know what to release. So that's why we use that today, and use science, of course, too. So there's a lot available in Noetic Science, as I use that term. It's like Noetic Science being the science of inner knowing, but that's not really the science. It's the science of, where you see, you can do some research, or at least see what the consequences are. For instance, of people meditating, or your mindfulness training, or you do this and that, things that human beings do in order to quiet their mind and have a more peaceful human life. So we go a little bit further in the sense that this is a spiritual awakening, and this is an infinite way pointing at the awakening experience of you, the rebirth of you coming to know the Christ that you are, and dying to your humanhood as a daily practice. So that is really interesting then to take a look at what science does with it. But we keep that quite So we keep that quite superficial because we don't need to get too deep into it in order for it already to recognize it what it is. Now that's what's coming up. So what is now? Well, what is now is a meditation. We use in the meditation, which is really like a contemplation, the words from Joel Goldsmith in parenthesis in Eternity, chapter 26, and this he has a beautiful start for this meeting. So let's dive into that and allow ourselves to be completely quiet and deeply relaxing into the certainty of what is true and releasing everything else. So this is immediately like the practice of releasing that what you have discovered to be the nature of error. Well, we didn't even really talk about the nature of error, but we're going to do it anyway, because it works. The way this is like relaxation is everything. To open up your consciousness for being still and listening and being alert at the same time, trying to catch every cue that is, every stirring that is happening within you is really what the practice is. So I would suggest to sit back and relax and let's see what happens. So don't forget to breathe and to come into a receptive state of mind. Forget about the rest. This is here now. This is you here now. So my kingdom is here and now. It doesn't matter where it appears to be. It can be on a beach like here, close to a river, but it doesn't really matter. It's anywhere where you are. My kingdom is here and now. God alone is power. This that has been troubling me and that I have been battling is an appearance that I am retaining in my thought as a mental image. It is not really a thing. I cannot win a battle over nothing, but I can relax in quietness and in confidence and realize that this picture with which I'm confronted is nothing but a picture, not a person or a condition, even though it may appear as a person or condition. This world is not to be feared, or hated, or loved. This is the illusion, and right where the illusion is the kingdom of God. My kingdom. My kingdom is the reality. This that my eyes see or my ears hear, this is the superimposed counterfeit, not existing as a world, but as a concept of temporal power. My kingdom is intact. My kingdom is the kingdom of God. My kingdom is the kingdom of the children of God. And my kingdom is here and now. All that exists as a temporal universe is without power. I need not hate it. I need not fear it or condemn it. I need only understand it. My kingdom is here and now. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for joining in the silence and recognize and understand the nature of error, recognizing it and seeing that everything with a temporalness isn't my reality, but I've made it my reality because I trusted it. And now I let that go because I understand it is not my reality. It is only temporal, a temporal idea. It's made up out of images. That's what Joel says too. It's like it's made out of pictures, and it is not what it appears to be. Now here we come directly into the psychology of awakening, you could say. This is a part that you will have to take a look at. You can't skip it. It's like you need not hate it, you need not condemn it. No, you need to not deny it either. But so what are you going to do with your world? Because your world, you believe to be your world. So that is where a big swing happens, in the sense of that's where a lot of the awakening is taking place, because you have to recognize it for what it is. And that is not a little task. It is a huge part of your awakening, seeing that what is real will be yours forever, and what isn't real has no life to it at all. It was just an idea that you thought that was life, and it was not. So this is the evaluation, you could say, of your value system, of that what you have seen as reality, what you literally have replaced as reality for yourself. Because don't tell me that you don't think it has power. You definitely think it has power. You are confronted with so-called opposing forces. Well, there is only one power, so that doesn't add up. So you have to recognize what is actually going on. That would be a question. What is going on in my dream? What is going on in my daily life? Because I'm upset, because literally things are happening to me that I really don't want. And now I appear to be in it, and I need to deal with it. It seems like, what am I missing here? Don't tell me that you didn't have that question. So in other words, it is with your thinking that we have to deal with too at the same time. Right? Joel says it too. It's like, yeah, you don't need to condemn it. You don't need, it's like all the opposites that you are perceiving. Do you believe in the idea of opposites? Well, you think like one shirt has a nicer color than the other. So you are comparing. You believe your perception, the way that you see. You believe that because you have an opinion about it. You have a judgment about it. You say like, I like this president better than that president. I don't like what's happening in the world. I don't like this. I don't like that. And I really like that, but I don't like that. In other words, you're continuously deciding upon illusions what you think has what has reality, because you value it, you see it, and you believe that to be your world. And this goes on a daily basis. So you can say like, the way I walk around in my daily life, I'm in denial probably 99% of the time. I don't believe that there's a God at all in the 99% of my day. Maybe the 1%, hopefully, will be like my moment of relief. Like, oh, no, none of this is real. Oh, so happy to remember that. Oh, yeah, wait a minute. There's a world out there, but it is not a reality. It's just, a manifestation of temporal power, which doesn't really exist at all. So I can release it for this moment. I'm in my meditation. Suddenly I feel the freedom of not being bound by that. Hopefully I have that 5 minutes a day, or 10, or maybe half an hour. Absolutely wonderful. Probably less. Also, that does not matter at this point, because you are not dealing with this alone. Like, you have help. Now to come back to the psychology of the nature of error, you could say, is like you think it matters if it's good or bad or black or white. But now here's the key in the discovery. The key in the discovery is that the opposites don't tell you anything about the real thing, that it's actually where the opposites come together and actually brings you back to your wholeness. That is the important part. Like the opposites don't matter. A little bit sick or totally sick is the same idea. Having too little money is all the lack in the world. Having all the money in the world is all the lack you can possibly imagine. So, you know what I'm saying? It is like the opposites don't work. They tell you nothing about your true nature. And this is what you have to understand. You think it differs, but it doesn't. Like it doesn't matter which part of the opposite you think is more important or more desirable. No, you don't want any of it. You don't want any of this. You don't want any of this temporal existence as you have formulated it. Because you want to be home in heaven. You want to experience the kingdom of God within you here and now. Not depending on anything. Not depending on how the trades are going in the market, or how what kind of car I'm gonna get today, or whatever economically is going on. Like you don't want your happiness to depend on that, because you will always look for something outside yourself and never find what you're actually looking for. This is the basic idea behind all of this. Like you are comparing something outside of you, and you think it matters how that looks. And Joel says here, no, this has no power. Literally, it's like it's a no zone. You don't have to do this. You have to understand that this is error. It's a mistake. It is just a mistake. Now release that. You don't need it in order for you to come to know who you are. So this is a huge project, you could say, in your spiritual awakening. It's a huge project. But see, the part is that you have your focus on awakening. You have your focus on doing the infinite way, or whatever path you're following. It's like you are looking for that. And you have your focus on it. But this part that you're in, and recognizing, oh my God, the whole day long I try to figure out what would be the best for me, and I make the choices, and I perceive this world as a reality. Like basically I'm still in the pre-phase of the awakening. I'm still considering all my options. I'm still organizing my world and my time. I'm still doing all kinds of things that have nothing to do with spiritual awakening. I can read the book, and I can listen to tapes, and I can meditate, sure, absolutely, that is wonderful. But in the end, you see where you find yourself. Like what is going on in your daily activity? What is going on in your life? So this is where you have to stand still for and say, like, I'm still believing this. I still give power to error. I really think it matters how it looks. Oh, I need to let that go. So it is time to sit with yourself and really consider this. Like, what am I doing the whole day long? Where am I investing in? And is that my reality, or is it the made up existence of temporal power that doesn't exist? Like, am I chasing an illusion here, or am I actually focusing on the truth within myself? All right, so today we get help from Joel and from Jesus. Jesus has a great... Oh yeah, so the other part that comes in with the nature of error is, of course, judgment or resistance, or basically non-judgment is the idea that comes to us. And this is, like, Jesus is a perfect example of non-resistance. And we have a beautiful example from Luke where Jesus performs that. And so that's one thing that comes up with the nature of error, the non-judgment. Like, resist not evil, in other words. Resist not evil. Why is that? Because otherwise I would think that evil has power to do something to me. And it doesn't have any power because it is a temporal, non-existing power. I have given it the illusion of reality, but it is not real. Okay, so the nature of error. I'm going to read this to you. Understanding the nature of error, error being discord, lack, disease, disaster, is universal mesmerism. You can say like general human mesmerism. Like almost every human being will believe in it. A misconception, a belief in two powers, two opposites, two powers, a God and an opposing power, a devil and a God. Like this. It's like there's a devil and there's a God. Well, there isn't. There's no two powers. There's one power. God is the only power, we said in the contemplation. Not a reality or power that needs to be fought or overcome. And this leads to the practice of non-resistance. Yeah, non-judgment, non-resistance. Resist not evil. So the non-resistance part is then also what comes back to us in the sharing of Jesus' miracles, so to speak. Resist not evil. So understanding the nature of error is like, that is fundamental. So that is a secret in that sense of consciousness. Because if I'm mesmerized by the world that I see and really think it has a reality, then I will not be able to experience the totality of my being. I'm not able to enter into the kingdom because I literally keep myself outside. So here then is the third secret. Like, you found the key to the kingdom. Recognizing the nature of error. Understanding the nature of error. But then also releasing the whole error thing. Releasing all of that in order to have your consciousness be open for you to receive the kingdom of God within you as a conscious experience. Now this, Joel says, enables you to withdraw from the battle so that you do not fight evil, but you come into the Sermon on the Mount. Resist not evil. Turn the other cheek. Put up thy sword. The moment that you can come into the presence of any form of evil with a relaxed mind, a mind that isn't going to jump right up and start battling it and denying it, you are ready to see it dissolve into its nothingness. See, and this is the psychology, I want to call it the psychology of awakening, because you need to see this. If you don't fight the opposites, if you don't fight that thing that you were resisting for a moment, and basically if you don't fight it, then you see it dissolve because it has no power. Yeah. So this is wonderful. So I recognize this as my, say, the start of my awakening experiences. There was like a deep sense of like a totality of fear that I was in, and literally diving into it, not resisting it, but literally handing myself completely over to it, and see that something totally different came up to me. Like I saw the fear dissolve, and suddenly there was light and love and the totality of being, instead of the struggle or the fear coming back or who knows what. Like, no, you see it dissolve into nothingness. So don't fight it. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to manipulate it. Don't try to deny it either. No, you meet it head on in the sense of being open, but not resisting it. letting it just fall into pieces, basically, and seeing that it isn't what it looks like. There's literally nothing to fear. So deep insight here is, if your mind is at rest, any form of evil that appears is not battled against or denied. It is allowed in order to dissolve into its nothingness. Now here we're in the science. Inner knowing and healing. The world we see obviously has not to do with the thoughts we think. The Noetic Science explores inner knowing and healing, which are often enhanced when the mind is quiet and not dominated by resistance or fear. Practices like mindfulness and meditation, which are essentially forms of moment-to-moment non-resistance, have been shown to lead to reduced stress, lower anxiety and increased emotional regulation, just like you have discovered with your with your meditation. Now, here I bring in another idea, the flow state as non-resistance in action. Remember as a child that you could be absorbed by doing something without noticing the time flew by. This can be called a state of flow. The state of flow is, in psychology, perfectly describes non-resistance applied to an activity. It is like you let yourself down the river effortlessly. Characteristics of flow that align with non-resistance is selflessness. The selflessness is the state where the inner critic, or the source of resistance, is silenced. And the inner critic is the one that's judging like opposites and all this. That's what the mind, the human mind, does. It's continuously a critic on its own thoughts, on its own behavior, on its own ideas, on its own world, all of this. But when that dissolves, suddenly you come into a flow. Like I want to add something to it, otherwise it looks like, well, where does this come from? And that's not necessary. So the flow state, why am I using this? Now here it is. It's like in fact is when you calm down your mind sufficiently, when you calm down your thoughts, when you are at rest, when you're in stillness, when you have meditated, in other words, when maybe you can do this all day long, staying in a meditative state. That could very well be. Now what happens then? Because things are happening, things are literally moving through you when this occurs. Like when you can stay in a state of relaxation for yourself, what happens is that you still are able to do all the things. It goes even easier. And they're well timed if you trust what is given to you. So I use this flow state as a flow state of spirit, and not necessarily the flow state that psychology is talking about. But like this is from my own experience. It's like coming into this flow state, you literally find yourself in the right moment, in the right time. If there's something to be done, you will have the inspiration to do it, and it will effortlessly move through you. And if there's rest to be taken, or if you have to just stay and be still, and that will be given too. If you need words, that will be given too. So suddenly I find myself in the parenthesis in eternity, in the book of Joel, and finding a beautiful meditation that we can use. Like that is continuously given. It is not just by getting the critic out of the way, like just by relaxing your conceptual mind, you could say, the mind that is looking for images and for differences and opposites. And like when that slows down, you enter into a state where you're actually open to receive and listen to the still small voice. This is recognizable in what Joel is telling us. Like, how can you do this all day long? Well, just don't resist evil. Stay out of the choosing opposites or having to figure out which choice is the best. Like, how would you know? So trusting what is given you and all this, it's like that's slowly but certainly And suddenly it's developing that way, that your mind is at ease. No matter what the situation appears to be, it can look like an emergency, but you're not perceiving that anymore. Now your mind is still open to receive the still small voice. And that is like overcoming the nature of error and moving forward into a flow state of spirit. So that's why I mentioned it. Now, Jesus being in the moment, in his ways, he's in the moment present. He's not talking about yesterday or tomorrow. No, he's in the moment. Even on the moment that he's going to be arrested, he's completely present. What happens then? Because he's not say, misled by appearances. And you see what happens. Let's listen to that too. It's so beautiful. Miracles with Jesus. So this is from Luke 22. While he was still speaking, like he was still busy, there came a crowd, and a man called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He drew near to Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said to him, Judas, would you betray the Son of Man with a kiss? And when those who were around him saw what would follow, they said, Lord, shall we strike with the sword? That was immediately what came up. It's like, oh, do you need defense here? And one of them struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus said, no more of this. And he touched his ear and healed him. So this is wonderful. So it's like totally non-resisting, in fact, and saying like, no, we don't need any of this. We don't need swords here. Like, no, that's not necessary. Wait a minute here. But then already something happened, and Jesus took care of that too. It's like he touched the ear and healed him, and that was it. So it is like Jesus stays right here. He asked Judas, like, do you really need to do this? You need to kiss me to betray me? It's like he asked him just a question. Then the other disciples are starting to defend. But Jesus is still standing up straight and like, whatever happens here, like I'm not determining that. I'm not resisting any of this. I'm standing here, like, let happen whatever happens for a moment. But then an occurrence took place, and then Jesus, in fact, brings that back to wholeness too, by just healing the ear, by touching the man and healing the ear. You know, this is the beautiful part, like, of non-resistance, you can say. Like, not that everything is just, we let everything flow over us, in a sense, but it's like, don't resist it. It is not what it appears to be. Only if you misperceive it, you see conflict. If you misperceive it, if you don't see it right, if you believe opposites to be true, if you think it matters one way or the other, you're caught in the situation and you find yourself on a battlefield. Now, is that recognizable or not? It's like, yes, of course. That's very recognizable. So you want to be free of the situation that you appear to be in all the time, because it has nothing to do with reality. And why would you lose your peace over it? Why would you lose your peace over anything if you recognize that it isn't so? So this is the awakening. It's like, if you believe your dream to have any reality, then you're caught in it. If you release that belief, if you let go of fighting it, defending it, resisting it, attacking it, and all this, then you enter into a state of present love, and literally it's like the light is shining right through and takes care of it all, not as a repair, but as a recognition of the truth. And this is what the awakening is. This is what enlightenment is. This is you recognizing this in this moment. What is true always. And what isn't always is never true. Yeah, here it is. So ready for this? Okay, so it's called My Inner Sanctuary. My inner sanctuary. Looking for salvation everywhere. Everywhere I look, it is not there. I fly to the moon, prepare my travels to Mars. Lonely am I, separate from all the stars. I start my business, making in no time a bunch, still feeling myself a Grinch. I invent all the luxury, I never have to do anything. An empty shell is still nothing. My car drives itself, but where on earth does it go? I still experience resistance and no flow. I organized peace in all countries. I eliminate all drug boats, still find no rest in my soul. In all the places I looked for recognition and peace, just forgot this one. I don't dare to look within. I skip that area all along. My feelings of guilt are so strong. Stop. Now. Go within. Calm your concepts. Be still. And listen. Salvation is here, waiting within you, ever since time began. My inner sanctuary. All right, thank you so much. So, sharing with you the video of Joel.
Expression, activity, manifestation, or demonstration. In the churches, they have a word, devil or Satan, which is the impersonal source of evil. In most metaphysical teachings, they have mortal mind, also the source, the impersonal source of evil. The mistake of old was accepting the devil or Satan as the opposite of God, a power which God was always fighting and never quite defeating. To this day, that battle between God and devil goes on in Orthodox teachings. And so far, the devil is far, far ahead, with little possibility that God can catch up. The reason for the failure is that devil or Satan is the impersonal source of all the evil that ever tempts man, but it isn't a power. It never is more than a temptation, a suggestion, an appearance, which we have been taught to fall for, to fight, to argue. It comes down to us from the old Hebrew Testament, where they appealed to this Jehovah God to defeat their enemies. Always, always, the Hebrews of old were turning to this great God of theirs to help them defeat the enemies. And sometimes God did. Sometimes he didn't. And you know, we learn that often when God didn't defeat the enemy, the reason was that the Hebrews had carelessly lost their ark, in which was the Ten Commandments, the holy writings. And if they ever lost those, they lost the battle or the war, because God was not on their side when they lost that ark. Superstition, of course, but remember, we're talking about the days of ignorance, illiteracy, when perhaps not one person in 1,000 knew how to read or write. No wonder there was ignorance. No wonder there was superstition, when the Master came, he changed that entire aspect of religion, but unfortunately the churches couldn't accept it. He brought to light the God of love, the God who never punishes, the God whom you can't implore to destroy your enemy. Not even when he was facing death himself did he ask God to destroy an enemy. Ah, no, he asked God to forgive the very enemy that was accountable for it. You see, the Hebrews didn't have the right concept of God. Jesus Christ came with it, and it couldn't be accepted. And so from that day to this, you still have the world praying to God to destroy our enemies. You still have God, you're praying to God to destroy our diseases, which are also enemies. Praying to God to destroy our sins, also our enemies. Sin hasn't lessened. I don't think disease has either. Some forms have, and then other new forms have come forth. Now, when we came to the metaphysical world, it was at first revealed that this mortal mind was not a power. It wasn't a power, and therefore, if you recognized that any form of evil, any form, was only a part or an activity or a substance of that mortal mind, and then dropped it, that healing would follow. And very quickly that vision was lost, because the term mortal mind became exactly what it did to Paul of old, who called it carnal mind. And just as Paul fought it until it killed him, so did the metaphysicians begin to fight mortal mind and to protect themselves from mortal mind and to try to walk on the other side of the street whenever they recognized it in some form. And so to this day, wherever you find a metaphysician fighting mortal mind, warring against it, battling it, trying to overcome it or protect themselves, you are witnessing a metaphysician who must fail. In the same way, it was brought to light in these early days of the metaphysical world that there are specific mental causes for specific physical problems. Now, again, Mrs. Eddy accepted that in her early days, and then later realized that there wasn't a word of truth in it. And she eliminated it from her teaching to the best that she could. But unfortunately, one of her students, one of those close to her, refused to accept her new revelation and published a book containing all of these mental causes for physical effects, and incidentally that list has become the foundation of a new medical profession called psychosomatic medicine. They have the identical list. Of course, their work is just as much of a failure as the work of all metaphysicians who believe that there is a specific mental cause for a specific physical disease. And that is why students who come to the Infinite Way and do not realize that none of that plays a part in our work, none of that plays a part in the principle through which we work, they lose the opportunity to benefit by the principles that have been revealed to me and have been found successful. Now, take this next step with me. Regardless of the name or nature of the particular discord that confronts you, whether for yourself or your patients or your family, whether it is some form of sin or disease or lack or limitation, regardless of what form it is or nature, please remember, it has its basis in an impersonal, call it carnal mind or mortal mind if you like, or devil or Satan, give it any name you like, as long as you understand it to be an impersonal source. And then take the next step and realize, since God didn't create that source, it has no law. It has no life, it has no cause, no substance, no activity, no avenue, no channel of expression. In other words, it is a nothingness. It is exactly what Hezekiah called it, the arm of flesh. Don't go out to battle it. Just sit here. And they did, and they rested in his word. Then the enemy destroyed itself. Somewhere else in the scripture it's called the fleshly mind. The fleshly mind that is not of God. Therefore it has no God power, no God ordination, no God substance, no God activity. Again, a nothingness. Now, this enables you to withdraw from the battle so that you do not fight evil, but you come into the Sermon on the Mount. Resist not evil. Turn the other cheek. Put up thy sword. The moment that you can come into the presence of any form of evil with a relaxed mind, a mind that isn't going to jump right up and start battling it and denying it, you are ready to see it dissolve into its nothingness. But if you put up your mental sword and try to deny, to argue, to overcome, the minute you try to think of truth to meet it with, you're lost. You're lost. The way to approach any and every form of evil is with the realization the cause causeless, an appearance, an impersonal source of no power. Then you will find that you are working with the principle of the infinite way. For this is the healing principle of the message of the infinite way. We do not have a truth that overcomes your errors. We do not have a God that will reform you or heal you. We do not have a God that will support you or supply you. The God of the infinite way is already maintaining and sustaining your spiritual perfection. And all you have to do is to awaken from this belief in two powers and begin to honor God by respecting the first commandment. Thou shalt have no other gods Thou shalt acknowledge no other powers. How can you fear an evil power if there is only one power, and that one power is God? It is only in the honoring of that first commandment that you can begin to perceive the healing principle of the infinite way. And of course, the second commandment of the Master is equally important. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And here is where you must take your departure from all other forms of metaphysics. You must never ascribe any form or phase of error to any individual on the face of the earth. It is a mortal sin to say of another that they are sick, or that they're sinful, or that they're poor, or that there is anything wrong with them under the sun. Even to believe in them as mortals or human beings separates you from loving your neighbor as yourself, because you do know that you are the offspring of God. You do know that I and the Father are one, and all that God is, I am, and all that the Father hath is mine. You know this is true of you. But you violate the second commandment of the Master when you say, your jealousy is doing this to you, or you aren't grateful enough, or you are too resentful. Every time you use that word you negatively, you are violating that commandment of loving thy neighbor as thyself. That doesn't take away from you your human judgment in the sense that you understand that there are some of us not fully showing forth that which we are. That is why you make a choice of your religious teachings or your religious teacher. You even make a choice of candidates when you go to the polls. Not because you are malpracticing anyone, because you know the truth about them. There isn't and never has been an individual on the face of the globe that wasn't the pure manifestation of God. But you also know that there are those who have no interest in accepting that estimate of themselves. And so when you're choosing your friends, or when you're choosing your teachers, or when you're choosing your elected officers, you have the right to be led to those who most nearly represent, in your mind, the spiritual ideal. And when not that, at least the human ideal. But for your living, and for your being healed, and for your healing, you must never malpractice another, even as you would not be malpracticed. And it is a malpractice. It is a direct malpractice to see in another anything other than the qualities of God. That is their true identity, even when to human sense they're not manifesting it, and even when they don't want to manifest it. Nevertheless, as far as you're concerned, that is their true identity. Now, even when you behold forms of error appearing as human beings, whether in the form of sickness or of sin or of lack, always remember this: in order to be helpful, and this is expected of you whether or not they ask for help, please recognize that whatever it is of an erroneous nature that they're manifesting has its seat not in them, in this impersonal impersonal mortal mind, impersonal carnal mind, impersonal devil, impersonal Satan, any word you like, as long as you recognize it to be an impersonal source, and therefore having nothing whatsoever to do with the individual who is manifesting it at any particular moment. Now, if you make the mistake of going back to some other form of metaphysical work or treatment and trying to remove some form of error from your patient or from your relative, you won't succeed. You won't succeed any more now than you did before you found the infinite way. Because there's no more benefit being in the infinite way than there is in any other teaching. The only benefit there is from the message of the infinite way is the practice you make of its principles. That's why it would be no good to have an organization and take you all in as members. It wouldn't do a thing for you except take from you some of your inherent individuality, because you'd be trying to live up to the standards of your neighbor. Now, or depending on your membership, or on your regular attendance, or your regular contribution, and be assured none of that counts one single bit. One thing alone counts both in spiritual living and in spiritual healing, and that is, what truth do you know? And how true is that truth? And how steadfast are you in its application? That's all there is to it. When you are healed by another, by a practitioner or a teacher, remember, you have only had a temporary benefit from the developed consciousness of another. You still will have to develop your own consciousness in order to make health a permanent dispensation, and in order that you may help others. Try to believe me when I tell you that no one in all of this world ever receives a spiritual blessing or benefit for their own sake. Never. Any spiritual blessing that is ever given to us by the grace of God is for the benefit that it will be to this universe. Of those who have much, much will be expected and demanded. Nobody is ever given the grace of God and then given permission to go up and hide in the mountain somewhere with it. No, no. The more of realization that we have, the more activity is given to us through which to put our understanding and our development to the benefit of this world. It is just like the sun never shines just for your garden. Your garden is just incidental to the whole picture. The sun shines for this entire globe, and the rain falls for this globe, and God's love falls for this globe to the saint and to the sinner, to the just and to the unjust. And so it is that when, in any way, we are given one grain of spiritual understanding or grace, it is only in order that we might be a transparency or an instrument through which it must reach others. It doesn't mean that we should have another generation of practitioners sitting in offices But it does mean that everyone who receives God's grace in a spiritual way should be prepared to help all those who come within range of their consciousness. Now you can see why, if you've been studying this message and have not found the answers to your problems, you can see in just the range of this one tape a probable reason. Somewhere you have not understood the nature of God, and therefore have been wasting a lot of time trying to influence God in your behalf, or you have not understood correctly the nature of error, and you have been battling it, or fighting it, or trying to overcome it, or trying to use the power of God upon it. And it won't work. It won't work. You must bring yourself, and you won't find it easy, but you must bring yourself to a place in consciousness where you can agree that the Lord is my shepherd, and therefore I shall not want. And actually know and understand that it is that way. And therefore you don't have to pray and plead and implore and affirm. The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want, and that's it, period. At some time you must come to the consciousness that He leadeth me beside the still waters. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. And even if I do walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Sometime or other, as infinite way students, you must come to the full and complete demonstration of that 23rd Psalm. And certainly you have it in our booklet in such a form that it makes it easy to relax and rest in it. And then you have to be able to look out of your eyes, and even if you see Judas Iscariot, say, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. Even if you are looking at disease, you have to be able to do as Jesus did. What did hinder you? What power is there in that disease? Rise, pick up your bed, and walk. You have to be able to see the nothingness, the non-power of that which appearances say is terrifying. In other words, it's a complete change of consciousness. It's a surrendering of the Adam man who believes in two powers, the power of good and the power of evil, and therefore has to earn his living by the sweat of his brow, or has to get healed the hard way. But the true understanding of that first Adam who knew God alone is power also perceives that whatever it is that appears in the form of sin, disease, death, lack, limitation, any of these and the infinite forms and varieties of them, place it back where it belongs, in that impersonal source, and then realize, since you weren't God created or God ordained, there's no law of God to support you, and walk away from it. And as you persist in it, you will develop that state of consciousness which is included in the Master's 2 commandments. Love the Lord thy God to such an extent that you don't believe God has ever empowered evil. Acknowledge that God is of such infinite power of good that no other power could have existence. And then take the next step and realize that your neighbor is the full and complete embodiment of the Christ, and only of the Christ qualities, and any other appearances really belongs back to that impersonal source which we are continuously nothingizing. And that, you see, is the entire story of our healing work. Almost wonder why we have to have a class. I don't know myself at the moment. And if it turns out that we have had the class and this is it, we'll spend the week together with an aloha of some kind. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, let's spend some time in aloha. That sounds really good. That's wonderful too. So thank you so much for joining today in the, discovering the secrets of consciousness. And today there's a lot revealed. You can tell. So that's wonderful. You can listen to it again, of course. But see, the thing is that this has been activated in your consciousness right now, like it is right here. You are aware of this, that it has happened, that something has been activated in you. Well, that is going to give you a different experience of yourself. So in that sense, don't trust your own doings, because it's like, no, you get your reminders. There will be some like tapping on your shoulders, like, hey, wait a minute, this is such a moment. Am I really going for the dualistic opposites? Am I really making this true for myself, or am I able to let this go and see it for what it is and let it turn into nothingness from which it came? So this is great. So I'm happy with this, third discovery that we share, and just amazing that all this is given and it just keeps on going. So I hope to see you next week in the fourth secret, and see you soon. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. Thank you so much.